Internet, hello you lovelies. Let's talk all about Star Wars Skeleton Crew Episode 6, and what an episode it was. It had lots of really interesting world building, had lots of character drama, had a really cool third act action set piece. Gonna dive all into it, but first, if you're new to this page, hit that subscription bell. We are rapidly approaching 50K, and when we hit 50K, I'm doing a 50 comic giveaway to anyone that follows me. Very excited to do that. I've never been able to do a giveaway before, so 50K giveaway, 50 comics coming at you. Please also like this video so I know that you like this video. Whether you like the show or not, hopefully you're enjoying the discussion of the show, and most importantly to me, let's have a conversation in the comments below. Let's make it like the back of a comic store and talk nerdy things with civility and respect in the comments below. It has been really fun to return to Star Wars, first with The Acolyte, which I didn't enjoy quite as much as this, and now with Skeleton Crew, which is much more my jam. We'll be covering Andor very, very soon when that show drops, and that is my precise jam. Andor is my favorite Star Wars show, and it's probably second only to The Last Jedi. We'll talk about that in another video. My favorite thing in Star Wars since Empire, but this show is giving me a lot of the things I love about the younger side of Star Wars. I talk about it in almost every video. I think Star Wars is a beautiful all ages property. I think you can lean older and you can have stuff like Empire. You can lean younger and have stuff like Return of the Jedi. And I think this is doing a good job for the most part, not skewing young exclusively, but actually doing the all ages thing. This episode, however, I do feel skewed a little on the young and almost more difficult for the 20 plus crowd to connect to it as much. And that's just my personal experience. I personally thought this episode was a little younger skewing in a way that I didn't connect to as much as I have episodes 3, 4, and 5. This episode to me was very reliant on us having a strong emotional connection to KB, and I personally, that's the character I've connected to the least so far, so it's a little more difficult for me, but I'm hoping that is one of the overall storytelling arcs where now that we are more endeared to this character, they get really cool moments in the final episodes, like that traditional structure where before the third act there's going to be a really endearing moment that suddenly a character you weren't as invested in spikes and grows. Now I'm sure there are tons of people that have the emotional connection that I just haven't yet to this character, but what I'm hoping is now that we've spent a very focused amount of time with this character, when something awesome happens, and hopefully not tragic, but just awesome and badass happens in the final two, this last act, we will get kind of a nice transition into feeling that connection. So I do think this episode wasn't as much for me as like episode 4 was my favorite. Episode 3 and 4, that late first act going into second act, is where I felt the show was shining best. It was doing a lot of commentary on how kids see adults. I think the last episode, episode 5, was really beautiful in a commentary on how kids see adults, like the spa, and how, you don't trust adults, and there's that, multiple names that Jude Law goes by. Whereas this episode felt like it was kind of getting us from point A to point B. We left off in episode 5 with the lightsaber sound, didn't see it. I thought that was a cool moment. I thought we were then going to come back and actually see Jude Law doing some stuff. Instead, he just kind of pops up in a very fun, very, cartoon comic booky way covered in jewels, but it does feel like they're saving that lightsaber moment just for the finale, and that's a little tricky pacing-wise to go from oh, what a great cliffhanger to, nah, boop, little cartoon pop-up. That definitely affected my experience a bit, and I get why they're doing it. It doesn't mean it worked for me. I can understand the why, but still think it wasn't what I would prefer. I also think that the third act action set piece was so beautiful, and I really enjoyed the, arc of that kid wanting to fly, not thinking they could fly, the whole trajectory of her as a pilot, and then she gets this great moment of, the beautiful shot of this spaceship doing some crazy acrobatics in the sky. Really cool delivery of a moment. I would have liked to have seen a little more context for the build up to that, as far as we haven't really spent much time with her, and I always want there to be the, victory moment for a character I'm invested in. So I think my biggest issue with this episode is I kind of have a general, these kids are great, versus a specific, these kids are great. Like each individual one getting their own little moment, except for the elephant kid, and that probably is largely based around the character design. Like we have a connection there because the uniqueness of being connected to something that looks like an elephant. So those are my only real issues. I'm trying to think of why this episode didn't connect me as much as the others, and I think those would be the reasons. I think the moments were really great. I think that pilot moment was really great and powerful. I think the actual KB, I think that's the name, the visor, the reading rainbow visor child, that kid being okay was a beautiful moment of connection between them. I really liked the comedic elements with Jude Law, and I think that really served, the narrative going forward of his duplicitousness, all of his stuff on the pirate ship, his getting to defend himself one last time. I really loved the threat of, that wolf man shoving his face, and that was a very impactful threat, and I'm feeling the tension there in a real way. Do I think Jude Law is actually in danger? No. Am I ever more intrigued by who Jude Law is? Absolutely. I read the comments from last week, and apparently they did say the pirate's name in episode 3, which was the pirate's name in the first episode. That intrigues me, whether he actually is that character or not. It seems the most obvious, but there's been enough, left and right turns. I could see there being another double twist, or the Jedi element could also be true. He could be a young Jedi that went astray. It could be, someone like these kids. There's likely storytelling-wise a parallel between these kids that, have had nurturing and have been raised in bounty and abundance, and maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't nurtured, and if you would have taken this path versus this path, he could be the opposite of what these children will become because he wasn't loved and he wasn't taken care of. So I could see him being a Jedi that went astray, and then that turning to a pirate's life. I am really enjoying the pirate stuff. I am really enjoying how scene-stealing Jude Law is able to be. He is clearly such a movie star, and I think he's keeping a lot of the show afloat. He's got a lot of weight in his shoulders, and these kids are great. It's just I am an adult that doesn't connect to their plight, because with Goonies, the kids always felt very precocious. 80s kids movies, the kids always acted like they were adults even though they weren't. There was a precocious intelligence that was sometimes arrogance, and sometimes kids trying to be adults that they really weren't. The kids here, I don't get that vibe from, so I'm not saying it's not accurate. I'm saying that when I was watching the stuff that I was connecting to as a child, that was the way that kids were portrayed, and that's how I connect to kids in film, like Pagemaster and the Goonies, and even early Goosebumps, and the things where it's that element, whereas these kids, I'm not Gen Z or Gen Alpha or whatever the next one's going to be, so it's just a different connection. So I personally had a little bit of emotional distance, but as I say, and it pisses a lot of people off, show's not made for me, but I can still enjoy it. I think this is a great show for a younger skewing audience, and I can still think that it's for me at points, and I can still find things in it for me, but it wasn't engineered with me in mind. It wasn't we need a show for 36-year-old guys from Boston. It wasn't. It was we need a younger skewing Star Wars show that I'm still enjoying. So that is the disconnect for me, so I can still acknowledge the quality of it without this episode being my cup of tea. So this episode was a little bit like 5, where it was a little lower than episodes 3 and 4 for me, higher than 1 and 2, so right that mid-range. I do think, however, it's connected us enough to the characters to give us a great finale. I do think going into episodes 7 and 8, this was a smart bridge episode, got some things moving, got the stakes heightened. The few things I mentioned I would have liked to have seen change, especially the lightsaber bit, but I see why, and we're going to get that in the finale, and we're going to get the final discovery of At-Atin. We're going to get who Jude Law is revealed to everyone, us as an audience and the kids, and maybe, just maybe, my tinfoil hat crazy theory of the Princess Bride / Hook-esque storyline. Apparently, the great Jude Law always plays Captain Hook, but the delivery of maybe this is a fable. I'd love if this was a story within the world of Star Wars, because of how the kids acting how they are and how the parents and adults all act. Does feel like a storybook story. So I would love that reveal of this is why everyone is doing these things, and this is a lore. So we'll see. Either way, these are all the things I felt about episode 6. I would love to know in the comments what you felt about episode 6 of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Would love for you to hit that subscription bell, because I want to keep growing this beast. Like I said at the top, 50 comic giveaway at 50K, and we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm really, really stoked and really appreciative. And like, comment, subscribe, and please, good people, thank you. Well, please keep the patience, but thank you for your patience. I will try to have the episode 7 video, which is today's episode of Skeleton Crew, up either wicked late tonight or tomorrow. I have the Wolfman premiere at 5. The movie starts at 7, so that's literally when the show airs, and then I've got to watch the movie. It's great watching it again, and then the after party and stuff, so I won't be watching the episode until 11 if I watch it tonight. More likely tomorrow, which means video tomorrow. But yeah, then we're all caught up from the break for Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, which I ended up working just on different stuff. So we'll be caught up, and we will be able to do the finale next week on time, hopefully, you lovelies. All right, Much love to each and every one of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Star Wars for existing. Leave a comment. Let me know. Like, subscribe, press buttons.